Well, hi everybody. Welcome back to Apple Cottage. I'm going to go over into where my live stream was supposed to start and let people know to come over to this one because for some reason it just kept spinning. Just kept saying going live, going live, going live, and it wouldn't work. So I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to go over into my channel and see if I can get everybody to come over this way. And it's showing that my other one is working. I'm going to videos. I might have to open it up in my computer just so that I can go over there and let them know. It's much easier on my computer a lot of times instead of my phone. And so I'm going to go over to that live and I'm going to let them know to come over. I'm going to say had to restart. Can you come over to the other live stream? I'm closing this one. So I'm going to do that. And that way I can come back over to my live stream and technology, I tell you. Sometimes. Okay, so hopefully people will start popping over. And I do need to know if you can hear me good on here. And if you can hear me once somebody pops over, if you'll just say, yes, I can hear you. And what we're doing today is a wall hanging weaving. And I'm going to move my chair so that I can zoom in so that people can see what we're going to do today. I'm going to take this off. Now, let's move this around here. And as you can see, it's just on a frame. And this frame is actually a frame that you can do a cross stitching in. There's little slices in this wood. You slide the edges of the cross stitch in and you can roll it and work as you go. But I am going to use it for something else. Sorry for the jiggling. I had my camera set up so I could zoom in, zoom out, but it would not connect. And it just kept spinning, spinning, spinning. But what we're going to come up with is a wall hanging something like this. Different colors, but so you can have the idea. And I always start with my up and downs. And you have to decide how many you want in there. This is going to be difficult with not having my regular camera. And I'm going to actually do 12 of them across here. And so right now I have 10 of them done. And it's a variegated yarn. You can use different colors in every single one of these. They can be the same. They can be light. They can be dark. It doesn't matter. And this is just the variegated yarn that I have because this is actually a gift. And some of the colors that she has match this main part. And things you can do when you're working on this, you don't have to just use yarn. You can use embroidery thread. You can actually use regular thread that you can mix with the embroidery thread or with the yarn or have multiple layers as you weave through. And I also picked out my piece of wood that's going to go on the top. And that way, I kind of know the width that I'm going to do. And since I'm going to do 12 across, I always like them to be even because sometimes I have to tie them. Now this process is going to take probably 3 or 4 hours. So as we go through this process, there might be times that I have to have a little break. So I'm just going to have back in 5 minutes, and I'll just, hook it on here, put it right by the camera, and it'll just say I'll be back in 5 minutes. I might need to just stretch, just get a drink, something like that. When we get the weaving all the way done, I have a bucket full of beads, and we can add some beads on there. So I have thread and needles for that. And I wanted to get everything ready so that we would be completely prepared, though I didn't foresee that my my live stream that I had set up would not engage. And maybe it was something with the Wi-Fi on my phone. I don't know. That is totally possible. And so let's scoot back just a little bit. I'm going to adjust that up a little bit. And we're even going to go back farther because I want you to be able to see the whole thing. There. Okay, so this is our top bar. This is our bottom bar. And we do our uprights first. And so you have to cut lengths of yarn that will go around those. Now, I always like fringe on the bottom, and so I always cut them longer. So what I do is I just wrap it across that top bar, and then I bring it up. And I have to tie this, but I want to tie it pretty tight because yarn is always going to stretch. So I wrap it around once, then I wrap it around twice. And the reason why I do that is because when you pull, it holds it better. And then I'm going to pull that down to the bottom and finish that knot, just tying it one more time. I'm going to pull it as tight as possible. So let's even move that down. So I'm pulling it as tight as possible. And then I'm just going to do another loop so that it ties it snug. Then I like these to be about 1/4 inch apart. And so here's my 12th string. I'm pulling it around and pulling it up. I'm going around once, and then I'm going around twice so that I can pull it snug. Then I slide it down so it's underneath because that's where I want the knot to be. I pull it tight as I can and do one more tie on it so it keeps it secure. So then we have all 12 here. So I am going to move this over here so I can be over by the computer. And we are going to start our very bottom part. So let's scroll down a little bit. Now, I don't want to start way down here. And this bar is wide, so there's a certain amount of pressure when you squeeze it together. I like to start up somewhere in here, about 2 to 3 inches above it. And when I do that, I have to make my base row. You can use any color you want. I just happen to be using this variegated yarn right now. Now I want this width from bar to bar. I need 6 lengths of that. So I cut it really long. I'm going to fold it in half. Now after I've folded it in half, I am going to tie it onto this bar. And that will give me my right height for it. So I just take it around, one on each side, and I just do a little knot. Pull it. So then when I pull it, I can decide exactly where I want that to go. Now my very first base and my top base will always be double stringed. When I'm weaving, I don't always use 2 strings. And what I do is I'm simply going to weave it. So I'm going to go in front of this one, so that has those 2 strings, and then I'm going to go behind it. Then I'm going to come through and I'm going to grab it again, and I'm going to go here. Then I'm going to go in front, and then I'm going to go grab it again. So it's every other one. And at this point, I don't want to pull it too tight. I want to make sure that I'm getting everything, because this is just my first row, and I can tighten it after I get all the way through. But you want to make sure that you're going in front of both or behind both of them. Because each one of these strands, though they're two strands, are together, and they count as one when we're weaving. Okay? And so we're just going to continue all the way across. Now, if you're wanting it to be completely straight, we will straighten it out as we go. Okay? And see how easy this is just to weave it back and forth. Okay? Now, if your yarn starts to twist, you can just put your fingers in there and straighten it out. And then I'm just going to straighten it some. Now, when you get to the other end, you can see that where this went in front, this should be in the back. Okay? And that's another reason why I have even numbers of strings. Okay, now we're going to go back. Now, I am going to put a little tension on here. And then we're going to come back and we're going to go the opposite direction. So I was behind on this side. So now it's going to go in front. Okay. And when you first do this first row, if it's loose, don't worry. We can tighten it up. Okay. And remember, we're just going to go every other one. So if we went in front before, we're going behind. And see how that makes that? And then we're going to go all the way across. And we're just going one at a time. And then we can just tighten this up more. After we get these first two rows on. And remember, if your yarn twists, just stop and untwist it. Now, there are times when I'm doing it and I don't mind that twist. It can give it really unusual textures. And so it just depends on the goal of your weaving technique. Now, when I get this main base done, then I can switch, and I'm going to move the camera a little bit. I'm going to sit down so that I can be closer to the weaving. But I want you to really see, because you don't want to make a mistake at the very beginning. Okay. Now I am going to tug those down with my fingers. And I really like the textural aspect of this, because you can really feel everything that you're doing. And I really like that. Now, because we went 6 lengths when we figured out how long this string was going to be, I can either stop here and tie it right there, or I can do some more weaving. Now, one thing to be careful of, don't pull it so tight that on your edges it wants to pull in too much. So we're going to go, first we were in front, then we were in back, now we're going in front again. And see how these strings are now getting closer and closer together. And that's what we want. And see how we can just weave with our fingers. It's a great feeling, and it feels very textural, and I like it that it's very much what they must have done thousands of years ago when they were hand weaving. Before there was machines and before there was all kinds of stuff. And I just imagine people in their small villages just weaving at night to produce clothing from their sheep or their goats. They make yarn and string out of all kinds of stuff. Plant material, flax, But I really like how organic it is. Okay, so we have another row done. Then we're pushing it down again. And I really believe I am going to go one more time across. I just am really liking the colors, and I like the colors that are coming up on this. So I'm going to go one more time. So you're just going to wrap it around that last one. We don't want to pull it too tight. And we are just going. And you just watch your strings, your up and downs, so that you don't grab something that's incorrect. Now see how this is twisted. So I'm going to just take my fingers and I'm going to move it around till it straightens itself out. It's very simple. And there's not anything wrong with them being twisted. It's just not the look I happen to want on this one. Twist it again. Now sometimes when you're doing it, you pick up strings or hair or something. Just tug them out. It's not a problem at all. But see how beautiful this is becoming? Now I like to use a lot of different size yarns and strings. I like the idea that it's more and more textural. And I like combining, instead of having, say, 2 of these that are exactly the same, a lot of times I will make one a thinner yarn and a thicker yarn. And I just like what it does. And a lot of times yarns can have their own, I don't know, strings and fuzz and stuff like that. Just pull them. Okay, so we're going to look at that and we're going to push that down. You can literally use like a pick, a comb, and push those down. But it's real easy to do with your fingers. And just make sure you're not tugging too tightly on your edges so that it pulls in. Now I have to tell you that on some of mine, I like to do that. I like where it can go in and out, and it's not just straight up and down. It just depends on what you want to look. But just be careful, especially when you're first starting, that you're not doing it too tightly. Now, right now, I could easily go across again, but I don't want to. So I'm going to grab my scissors. Sorry. Because it's folded on this part right here, I'm just going to cut it. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap it over here. Because I don't tuck the ends in until the very end of my weaving is done. Because you never know where you might just want to change something. And you might have to take something out. And so it's just an easy way if you just keep them on one side or the other as you go. Move my phone out of the way. And this is a project that's going to take 3 or 4 hours. So please feel free just to come and go whenever you want. It'll load itself up later, and so that you can stop and start and just watch what's happening. And I'm going to, for some reason, I cannot get the live chat to work on this. Let's see. So I'm going to go onto my phone also and see. Oh, see, there's lots of live chats, and I can't see that at all on my my computer, but I can see it on my phone. And so I'm actually going to plug my phone in so it can run the whole time, so I can watch the live chat on my phone. And so let's just stop and see. Genevieve, hello. John Coffey, how are you? Janie, His Way Homestead, Doug, how are you? Thank you so much for stopping by. And, oh, just all kinds of people are here today. Now, Lady Wise Trucking, I have not stopped over to your channel. I am going to have to check that out. Marianne, how are you? Maryland, hope this works. This is Kevin and Billy Joe. They just had dinner with us the other day. Todd, how are you? Karen, how are you? And JB has not popped over. She was on my original one, so I hope that she comes over. And I'm going to just keep that live up there, so I'm just going to say welcome, everyone. Okay, so let's go. Oh my gosh, so difficult sometimes with my computer stuff. I tell you, when you're old, sometimes it just doesn't do what you think it's going to do. And so we are going to go back there. And now my comments are gone on my phone. It's just craziness. So I like to use lots of different textures of yarn. See, this has a string that goes through it besides the different colors. And we are even going to use some of this very big fat yarn. So I'm going to move my camera a little bit. I'm going to get my chair over here so that we can really go into looking and doing some shapes and different things on our weaving. So I'm going to put this over here, pull my chair up as close as I can be. And I have to tell you, I was very disappointed that I could not get my phone to work right, because I wanted to really be able to zoom in, and that's just the way it is. Now, on this bar, you might wonder how it's sticking on my table. And I just went out to Joe's garage. He has a lot of woodworking things. And so he had some clamps. So I clamped it onto the table, and it has some little bars that they can kind of rest on. And I went out to the garden and got some clips up here and just clipped it onto the bar and onto my frame. So that will work really well for me. Now I am going to zoom that like that. And one of the main questions that people ask me is, how do I make things curve like they were going up a hill or a slope? And that is actually really an easy technique to do. And so I'm going to take some yarn, and I always just grab what I think I might use. And I'll take my scissors, and I'm going to cut that. Now this is where you have to decide, do you want it doubled again or single? But I'm going to do it single, because I just find that when I'm doing sloping, though it takes me longer to go up and down, it actually makes it the slope more gradual. So like always, I'm going to tie off. Now I have a lot of tools that you can just weave back and forth, but when you do that, you lose all the feel. Now, anytime you're doing another row on top, you want to go opposite. So on here, this is to the front. So we are going to start to the back, and then we're just going to weave. And it's all just a process of weaving. And I like to, as I go, if I'm doing a slope, I like to press it as I go. Now again, feel free to come in and out anytime you want to, because this is a long process. And I am first going to go all the way across. Okay, so when I end up, I should be in front, because I was on the back side over on this side. And that's a good way to know that you've got all of your uprights in there. Okay, now when I come across this way, I'm not going to go all the way across. Now remember, don't pull it too tight on any of your sides. And we are going to just go, about 3/4 of the way across. Okay, I'm going to pull and I'm going to tuck down. Now I'm going to make a slope up here. Okay, and so I'm going to stop here. I'm on the back side, so I go around to the front and I go back and forth again. I find weaving probably one of the most relaxing things of any of my crafts. It's slow, you're patient, you have plenty of time to think about things. And it just really makes me happy to do it. We got to the end, we're going around. Now, because this is a single one, single thread, I am going to go exactly to the same spot I was. And I won't do that on every single one, but at the very beginning of the slope, that's what I like to do. And we're going to weave back and forth, going all the way to the end again. Now this time when we come across, I'm not going to go as far. But I am pressing down because I want to make sure that I am doing all of my stuff. Okay, now I apologize that I can see that there is 13 thumbs up, so I appreciate that. But can I see the comments? No. Why? Absolutely no idea. So I'm going to go out of my phone and I'm going to come back in, which won't affect you guys at all. I'm just going to click the live again and see if that makes a difference. And there you are back again. Oh, JB, you are here now. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I had that problem. I don't know what the deal was. And Miss Molly Cakes is here. You know, I love her cakes. You'll have to check her out. So fun. Hope This Works is still here. Rita, hello. How are you? Now, I don't have a moderator. I didn't feel I could ask people when it was going to be so long. But if you guys would say, if the volume is okay, I would appreciate it. Because it's going through my computer now instead of how I had first set it up on my phone. So if you guys can let me know that, that would be wonderful. Okay, so I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to stop one before. Okay, I'm going to push them all down. And see how you can already start to see that it's going to go up. And it's just a matter of weaving back and forth. Very relaxing. Just wonderful. Oh, thank you. I don't know if it's Kevin or Billy Joe that are watching it. It's probably Kevin because Billy Joe's probably at work. I appreciate that you letting me know. Now, sometimes your thread does not end up on an edge. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do if that happens. One, if you're going to use the same color still, you can easily just do a knot in the back. Remember, don't pull it too tight over on this string. Pushing it down. And I'm going to stop one before. Now, at first, it will look kind of blocky, like it's not smooth on your slope. But when you start to do this other side, and when you add ones as you push it down, you can really correct that. So we're just weaving along. And as you can see, it starts to change. But this is such a nice color thread, and it has colors that was in this main and in the up and downs. And so that was why I picked that as the next one. We're stopping one before, and we're wrapping around. And it's just a process. Now, as you can see, this is not going to reach. So what I'm going to do is I am going to actually tie on because I still want to go up farther on this one. If I was going to stop here, what I would do is I would just tuck it into the back and let it sit for a little bit, and then I would tie it when I go to do all of them. Sorry, dropped my yarn. And so we're just going to grab another section of yarn. And I'm going to do a little bit different right now. I have this is called sock yarn. It's very thin, but it has some highlights of the colors that are in here. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to cut a piece of that, and I'm going to have it the same length as this one. So I'll just match up the edges, and I'll just pull that until I get the right amount. Now, an interesting thing about yarn, sometimes it will just knot itself. Other times, it's actually knotted from the factory. It was, it didn't make a whole skein, so that they had to fix it. And this is actually just making a knot itself. But I will see what happens when we get there. So what I'm going to do is I line those two up. I'm going to take this yarn and I'm just going to put a knot in it. Oh, I think you guys are talking about the lanterns that I have in my background. Now I'm going to do a whole video on that. Kevin over at Hope This Works makes lanterns for Halloween. And let me grab it. I think you can kind of see it. Is that fun or what? So I'm going to paint the whole thing, and I'm going to do a whole video about it. And it was so sweet of them to give that to me. And I'm totally excited about doing that. And I have the perfect colored paints that I've been thinking about. Okay, now see, this is where our knot is. Now we do have to be careful that it ends up on the back side. And I'm going to let that very thin sock yarn just twist around the yarn however it wants to. Now, if it looks like your knotted part is going to show up in the front, what I do is I will make it go into the back and then knot it so that it has to stay back there. Okay, so this is our knotted knot right here. But eventually you will not see that at all. Okay? And that was in the front, so we're going to go back. And see how that knot is just going to rest back there. And I'll tuck in the strings of it, and it'll be perfectly fine. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing these, I like to make this with a contrasting color over here. Sometimes it just depends. Like if I'm making it for somebody, a lot of it depends on the colors that they want. And if that doesn't work, I just don't do it. But a lot of times I can use a real fun contrasting color, and that's nice. And as you see, we're just spinning it. Now we should start to be able to see the purple in there. Now you can make this slope, you can make it slope and then curve straight up. You can just do so many things when you're weaving. But I'm going to let that purple just spin however it wants to. And then we're going to go back over. And this is the one that the knot is right behind it. So we're just going to, see how it caught that? So we're just going to pull it back. That's just the strings of it. It's totally okay. But see how relaxing this is? It's just so earthy, I guess. You know, if I would have been born a little bit earlier, I probably would have been a hippie. I think my mom told me that one time. But I love the land. I love texture. I love stuff like that. Now this wall hanging that I'm making is actually for a subscriber. Her and I we exchanged emails, we've exchanged gifts, birthday cards, and she just lives a state away. And it was her birthday last week. And I said, you know, I'm going to do this live, and I would like to give you my weave, that my wall hanging, when I'm done. And so I think it'll just be a special gift for her. I hope she just really loves it. So she gave me some colors that she has in one of her rooms. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had some gold in there. And she has some earthy colors that she told me. And I just thought, oh, this is a fun project. Now Joe's golfing today because I kicked him out of the house. And I told him that I was going to be filming for about 4 hours. I didn't really want the noise. And I think he really wanted some time out on the golf course anyway, because he just redid our bottom stairway with laminate. And he finished that yesterday. So he worked on it most of the day. And it just looks so good. Though I did think that after he'd got it done, we should have painted before he laid it, which would have been easier in case there was a mess. I'm kind of a messy painter. And see how I'm just continually pressing that down. And it just makes it so that when we go to do the other colors, I can even squish those more so they become more of a smooth slope. Now, when we get over to here, we are really going to be short weaves back and forth, because like this one, we're only using 4 strands. And then the next time we're only going to be using 3 of the strands. But I want to show you some fun things that we can do. Now, is there right or wrong with weaving? I don't think so. I mean, you can buy the kits and they have the frames and they have nails or posts across the top and, in the bottom. And I have a tool that you hook the yarn, you weave it through, you hook the yarn, and you just pull it. It makes it very fast. That's true. But I don't like it. And I've used them different times, especially if I'm in a hurry. I've used them. But I really like it when you touch it with your fingers on every single row. Oh yeah, see, I'm really liking that feel. Totally different texture from this one. I just really like it. So now we're only at 2. And now we're only at 1. And I'm going to wrap that around a few times, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Because you can do a lot of things, unusual things with weaving that you can't necessarily do with any other type of textile. Because I'm going to leave that little space right there, and then I'm going to weave across. Sometimes when I'm trying to make it so that it looks like a stream or waves, this is something that I do. And I'll just keep it so, because I want it to be straight across there. And that way when I put the other colors, it'll go all the way into there. It'll give it a fun look. And if I need to straighten it up or down when I start to do these other colors, it's easy to do. And I'm going to go back. And when you have these lines in there, it's also great space for when you're going to put beads in your area. But see how fun that looks? It already is starting to give you patterns. I'm going to go one more time. I actually might go 2 times so I can tie it off over on the other side just to show you. And you're just watching your uprights to make sure that you're getting every single one. Okay? Now, there are times that I'll do doubles. I'll go double underneath, double on top. Those are just patterns though. And so those are all things that you guys can decide to do. But you can use, if you don't want to buy a frame or you don't have something like this, maybe you have an old canvas that it was a painting. Maybe you're in one of those fun paint your canvas classes and you're not going to hang that up anymore. Just cut the canvas off, undo the staples, take it off, and that makes a perfect rectangle so that you can weave. Now I've made weavings, wall hangings that are very large and very wide, and then I've made lots of skinny ones. But I have to tell you that people, for the most part, unless they have a specific place for it, really like the small ones because they're so easy to put someplace. They're a great little gift for somebody. And so this could be something you could really use for Christmas. Now I'm not quite sure if I'm all the way done with this yarn. So I am just simply going to tie it off loosely and just leave all this hanging part just to hang down. So let's start over here and let's add so that we can really make it slope, and I can show you how you tuck it with your fingers and it can make it slope even more. Now we have to decide on colors. Now sometimes it's good to introduce colors slowly. Other times it's good to, all of a sudden it's just bold. It's just right there. And I'm going to introduce a color slowly because it has a little bit of purple. It has some of the lighter colors of the uprights. And so I'm going to add that in there. And yarn usually has an end. You just tug on it until you find it. If you don't find it, I just cut it. Honestly, I just do. Oh, there's the end. I love yarn. When I go to garage sales or a store's having a sale on yarn, I'm buying it. But when you pull it out of the center, sometimes it has this little, it's just like craziness. It's just like this bunch. And I figured it's probably how they started it off. I'm going to take the shorter one. Well, maybe not. I'm going to take the longer one. It doesn't want to come out of there. Now this is a very thick yarn. And I'm only going to do it one thickness. So I'm going to send it through there. I'm going to tie it off. And I am just going to, oh, thanks, JB. Yeah, I think she will really like the wall hanging. And she made me pot holders. I mentioned it in a video, Steph. And we have a lot of things in common. And I just, sometimes you just really click with somebody. And I would like to get more and more of my YouTube friends to be friends like that. Okay, so this one was behind. This string was behind, so we're going to start in the front. And this is, oh, sorry, I went one too far. I have to go back because I want to show you something. So we're going to pull this through. I'm actually got this way too long. It'll take me too long, so I am going to pull, and then I'm going to cut it. Oh yeah, see, and then I'm going to slide these down because I want them pretty even to where they're going to go. So let me trim that. I will use more of it, but for right now, I just don't. Sometimes it gets too bulky and it's just harder to work with. Okay, so I'm going to go back. But remember when we did those first couple rows of this, we did multiple ones of crossed. So what I want to do, because I want it to hook together, I'm going to push this one up and I'm going to come through that. Pull it, and I'm going to push it back down. And it just connects it. Not that you can't, if you have open spaces because of different things, you can't hook that later. But I've just found I like it better by just weaving in and out. Let me pull that back up a little bit, and then I can push it down. And this helps when I'm doing this. This helps with when we do the slope. Okay, so it's going to go around the front. We're just always doing the opposite of what it was before. Oh yeah, see, I really like this yarn. It's very fun. It's different. And I think later on when we use more of this gold that's up and down, it will really help it. So I'm going to lift that up a little bit. I'm going to come back around. Now remember, when you're going in the middle, it's just like the ends. You don't want to tug it too tight, okay? And it makes it so that if you tugged it too tight, it will want to separate. And you don't want that. You want them very smooth, even stitches. Well, they're not really stitches, they're weaves. But see, I like that. I like that, the lightness with the gold in there. Yeah. Now, the nice thing about weaving, if you do a section and then you don't like it, just take it out. That's another nice thing about having it tied over here and you haven't tucked them in yet. It just makes it so easy to change. Now, you don't have to do the same color all the way up your slope. It just depends on what you want to do. Oh, I'm going to take that back out one time because I didn't lift it up. So I'm going to pull that. See, I'm starting to push that, but I want to lift that up right there. Just that one. Then I'll push it back down. What are you guys thinking so far? Are you liking it? I always like the idea that people go, what if you put this color in there, Sandy? What if you did this? Like when I've taught weaving and you got the gals all doing it at the same time and they're sitting around and they're copying what you're doing, though they may have different colors. And they go, what if we added this in there? I find that very interesting. Because even when you're all the way done and you've tucked them in and then you go, it just needs a color right there. You can take a needle and thread and add, say, your embroidery thread in there. Or a piece of yarn, you just use a big needle. Now, one thing about when you have the knots in the back, they like to catch. I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to tuck that in. So it just becomes part of it. I don't want it to ever look like section, section, section. I want it to look like it's a whole. And where these overlap, they somewhat disappear, and then it makes it so that you just have that solid slope right there. Then I'm just coming back around. Now, I would usually change colors, but because you're watching and you're learning, I think I would like to do this whole section all the way into there, just so that if you're watching it now or later, you can go, okay, that's what she's doing. This is what we do, because it's repetitive on a lot of it. And as you go, you can, the harder you push these down, the more you can make it slope, slope. And then you can always add a little bit right in there. So it's interesting how different it can be. And when you add beads, or, I mean, you can add wooden beads, you can add glass beads, plastic beads, you could add embellishments, you know, charms, different things like that. It's all just really interesting on the end product, because you can have a whole class full of people that basically did exactly the same as you. They did all the weaving exactly the same, but because of the embellishments that they add onto it, it can just be really completely different. And that I really like. It's like when you teach a painting class and everybody's using the same colors, but because everybody is unique and different and their brush strokes are different, it becomes different. And with weaving, that's the same thing. Oh yeah, I am liking that. And then I'm going to do some beads along that ridge. Oh yeah. Very beautiful. Sometimes about in the middle of my weave, I like to add the really bulky yarn. And that's when I'm going to add this really fat stuff. Because there's all kinds of fun bulky yarn. And it's just so fun to do. Now, do you have to lift up these every single time? No. You just want to keep an eye on what you're doing and how it's looking and the end product, the artistry that you're going to have at the end before you do that. Now, right now, this is very straight, but that doesn't mean I have to keep it straight. When I get some more of this on there, I may slope that also. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I pulled that a little too tight, so let's pull it back. Okay, cool. In fact, I think I might go one or two more lines right up here, and then I think I'm going to push that down onto it. I think that could give it a really interesting look to it. And that's the nice thing about weaving. You can loosen it, you can tighten it. It's just, like I said before, very earthy. It really gives you a feeling of, well, I guess I get a feeling of accomplishment when I do weaving, because it's an old art. And I like that. So many women and men just love doing that. And sometimes it just clicks. Everything just is working the way you want it to. And, don't want to pull that quite yet. I think I'm going to go up and down one more time, and then I'm going to push that. Now, depending on how you're holding your brackets up, sometimes I just lean it against something. When I did mine the other day, when I had the fast motion, I just had it leaning against the table and sewing machine in my craft room. Oh yeah, see, I'm liking that. When I get this part done and push that down, I'm going to pull the camera back so that you can kind of see what I'm seeing. But see how easy it is to use your fingers and how quickly you can produce a piece of art? I'm gonna lift that one up, tuck that behind. Okay, then I'm gonna pull this. See how you can just push it with your fingers because it was straight across. But I like that look much better like that. So let's move the camera back a little bit. Let's see what we can, just so you can look at. See how that's sloping up and that's sloping down? Ah, I like it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Now I am just going to take this string and I'm just going to hook it over here for right now because I'm not sure I'm done with this string either. I'm just going to do a little easy knot right there. Okay. Oops. Now why not add, sorry, I'm moving my chair and it's on wheels and it's making everything move. There we go. That's a good shot right there. Now look at how fun this is. It has a lot of the colors that are in my uprights. And that's why I pulled it out of my art tub. And I'm just going to cut this, like 3 feet long. And a lot of times I like to look at what colors are on the ends. And I think I'm going to tie this end. I mean, it is thick and bulky, but wonderful texture. And it has actually a string that wraps around it so it makes those little indentations. Okay, so this last one was above, so we have to go behind. Now, when you're using really bulky yarn, I like to pull it after every couple ones just because of the bulkiness of it. And it has a little bit of purple in there, which was the same as that sock yarn, that really skinny sock yarn that we added right in here. But it's really a fun yarn. People make blankets out of it, and I've never made a blanket out of it, but I just like it because I like using it when I'm weaving, and I like using it sometimes when I'm doing a wall hanging, a quilted wall hanging. Now, if it starts to twist too much, just like the other, just untwist it, okay? And see how it's just... Now, do I have to go all the way across? Of course not. In fact, why would I? Because I like things being different. Now, when it's a bulky wool, and if it's sitting any place, it will pick up everything. You have something on your table, it's picking it up. If you have pets and they get to go in your craft room, mine don't go in my craft room, though Max sometimes tries to sneak in there. But mine, all my yarn is in tubs. You can get dog hairs on them easily. And if you're not working in that room and you're out on your kitchen table, just the movement around how dog hair can just float in the air, sometimes you'll get it, just pick it off. That's all I do. Oh, see, that is a fun textural part. I think I'm going to make it so that it makes kind of a triangle shape in here. But it's really, oh, I wish you could feel it. It's so soft. And I love that it's matching those colors. Now, there are times that when I'm using bulky yarn, I will put, I'll send it through and then I'll make knots in the front. And, I'll just make a knot right here and then continue. because you can just do a lot of different things with bulky yarn. Okay, so we're gonna, that's all the farther I am gonna go over. Now when you're pressing it down, things to remember, maybe you want to be able to see these uprights. Maybe you don't. When it's a closer weave, you don't really see them. When it's a double weave, a lot of times you do see it. When it's bulky, a lot of times you do see it. But these are just really choices that, you know, you make on every weave that you do. And sometimes it's nice to have just these little boblets of bulk. You know, like you're doing a section, but then sometimes you're up farther, you'll just do little 2 or 3 weaves in a place. It just gives you more texture, more, it's just simply fun. That's all this is, just fun and relaxing. And I love giving them as gifts. Yeah, see, that is just such beautiful colors. I am just really liking that. Now remember, come in and out whenever you want to, because this takes me a long time to do. And if you're going to do one yourself, when it's time to set up and do everything, then you come back, stop, start, stop, start. I think probably the bulkier it is, the more twist it can have in there. But remember, anytime you're switching direction, don't pull it too tight, because it will just bunch and stretch. Because even though I pulled these really tight when I started, they stretch as you work with them. Yeah, I'm liking it. I think one more row. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Let's go back. I would like some color change before I end it. So there's some green and then some of the blue, so that is good. Now remember, if you click back, if you leave and then you come back and there's a little sign that says back in 5 minutes, just because I just needed to stretch or I just needed to get a drink of tea or something. Okay, so I am going to leave it just like that for right now. What do you think so far? I am liking it. I'm going to keep that long just in case I want to do something. Now there are times that when I'm working on this, I will leave extra over here that can fringe down. You know, I'll tie a knot when it's all the way done, loop it or connect it in the back, and then I'll let it just hang. But that I am liking. Lots of good different textures. Really, I'm really liking it. Now here's another sock yarn that I have. And I pulled it out because I thought those darker greens would match. And even though this is a little bit different, I think it can be interesting. So I'm going to take some of this, I'm going to do it double, and I'm going to take it up and down right in here. No thick yarns, just this way. So I pulled it out of the center. This one worked really good. Sometimes it doesn't work good. And I'm just going to take some, I'm going to double it so I can make it a little bit longer than I would otherwise. And I like using these little scissors. They're perfect. Any scissors will work though. So I got both ends. I need to know where my center is. Okay? Now I can start on either side. But because I'm sitting on this side of the table, and the camera's more on this side, I'm going to start over here. And I'm just going to send one of them on one side, one on the other side, and I'm going to just tie a knot. Now we're getting up higher, so I am going to move the camera a little bit so that it's up a little bit farther. There. Okay, so it's tied right there. This is on the front side, so we have to go on the back side, don't we? Completely different texture than that fat yarn. It's just amazing. Now they call this sock yarn, but to me, this would not be a soft sock. This would not be something that I would make socks out of. But I do use it a lot in weaving, and I do use it a lot in my wall hangings, my quilted wall hangings. Now, I know this looks like a long slope right here, but we are still going to do it. I'm going to leave it very loose so that as I push it, it will have plenty of yarn to fall down in there. And the more we do, because we'll do about 4 rows of this, the more we can push it down. But I have to make sure that it's very loose in this part, okay? And when we get the other yarns up here, the weight we can push down too. But I just want it not tight at all. I really want it to be able to push down in there. And usually, you know, I'm facing straight on and I'm doing it to the side, so it's a little bit different feeling. But all workable. Now, I'm going to let that twist any way it wants to. I'm not going to keep it. And I think it will give it a good other texture, which is so fun when you're doing wall hangings. My next one that I'm going to do of my wall hangings is going to be completely in whites and off-whites. All the yarns, all the different texture of yarns are all going to be white or off-white. And I think it will just be really spectacular, but I'm going to do it for a Christmas gift. And I think I'm going to make it wider but shorter. And I just think it could be really a fun thing. But I hope this is showing everybody, it's really easy to do it just straight across. It's the techniques of making it go up and down, and that can be a little bit more tricky. Well, I wouldn't really say tricky, but when you first do it, it seems to be a little more tricky. After you've done it once or twice, it's like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. But see how it just really starts to make that edge? Let me see if I can turn that a little bit. And it really can divide it. Now, can you use just tons and tons of different kinds of yarns? Yes. Do I? Well, I use a lot of different textures, but I will always, if I use this yarn down here, someplace up here, I'm going to use it again. Same with this. If I used it here, I'm going to use it someplace in another spot. And a lot of times I like to do it 3 places. And that's because your eye, your brain, likes odd numbers. They've done just so many tests on individuals, and people like odd numbers, which if you ask somebody, they'd more than likely tell you that they would rather something be an even number. But especially artists have learned this, that if you have 2 pairs in a bowl, it's okay. But if you have 3 or 5, something that's odd, it's just more appealing to the eye, and you will sell more art. And so when I've taught art classes different times, I've always made sure that, say we're doing fruit, it's an odd number. We're doing whatever we're doing, it has an odd number to it. And then I am just going to tie this over here. All of these get tucked in eventually. Now I want to show you how to go from sloping to go back to straight. And we're going to do some, we'll slope it back till it gets up here. So that little teeny section. And then we'll do some straight weaving. And we'll do some straight weaving that goes part way over and it meets over with another color. Things like that, just so that you get the idea of how to do all the different types of weaving. Now, can you learn everything about weaving in 3 hours, 4 hours? Never. There's just so many fun techniques and so many fun things to do. But I think I'm going to take, because this matches this so well, I think I'm going to take this yarn, my very beginning yarn, the up and down rights, and I'm going to make that be right in here. And because those colors are just so nice together. So let's move the camera up a bit. And I think I also am going to add this blue. This is embroidery thread. And when you take it out, when you're embroidering, you're actually taking these threads apart. And sometimes you use one, sometimes you use two. But I'm going to use the whole thing because I want it to be thicker. And I think that's a fun match with it. And in fact, I might even take the green too. And have 3 threads. I think that could be really interesting, especially when it started to twist. What do you guys think? Okay, so I'm going to do it as long as my yarn thread, and I'll clip those. And we're just doing this side, so we need to tie it onto this side. So it just slips between the clamp and the frame. I'll just do a knot right there. We want it pretty low because it's low here. And we're going to just start. This is to the front, so we have to start on the back. Now we are going to have to start with just a few at a time because it is sloping right here, okay? And so then I'm going to come back to the very first one. Okay? Now when you're doing multiple threads, you have to be careful because you can't just hold on to the end. You have to watch how it sometimes wrinkles. And so you hold it and then you get to your top again. Now remember, never to go too tight on those edges. But see how that's interesting with the threads. Now, I don't want to lose this slope right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this forward and I'm going to wrap that around there. So you won't see, sorry, dropped some thread. You won't see it in the front, but it is wrapped around so it connects it. There. So see, I don't lose that, but it's still connected. And that's what I want. So that it goes straight across right here. So we're pulling, we're tucking it down, and that just helps with that slope. Okay, now I am going to hide it under this yarn too. So I'm going to slip that through there because I don't want to lose that slope. So I'm just going to pull that. And see how it's there, but you're not losing this line. And there's a lot of different tricks on how you can do that, but that is just something I like to do. And see how straight that is compared to the sloping. Okay, this is wrinkling a little bit, so I'm gonna pull it, hold, pull it, till I get all the way to the end of my strings. And we're just wrapping it around again. If we were in the back, when we first went there, we go to the front. And now I can take it in front, and I won't lose that slope. And we're all the way back again. But I really like how those two embroidery threads can pull those colors from over here. And I think when someone looks at it when it's finished, it will pull people back and forth to the different parts of the, oh, sorry, just one second. There's something on my computer. There. It pulls it back and forth so that it just keeps the eye moving throughout the wall hanging. And I like that. I like that people go, oh, I'm going from here to here. Now, this one I'm going to tuck underneath again. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to twist that around it. And I'm going to hide that. See how we're just going back and forth. And you can do all kinds of things with weaving. You can literally write words or letters in there. Like if I could actually put an A in here if it was for like one of our family members. You can just do so many things, and it is just, seriously, this is cheaper than therapy, and you will get more out of it sometimes. See, what do you think about this so far? Thanks, Caroline and JB. I appreciate it. So we're just gonna, and we want to make it so that I can get all the way straight across here. And so it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of moving back and forth, pushing them down, keeping them the level that you want. Now, as you can see, this yarn is variegated, so it's starting to change already. And that will make it interesting. But every so often, especially when you have multiple ones, you want to pull them tight and just keep stretching it till you get the end, so that all of a sudden you don't have this really loose thread in there. We're just going back and forth. Now, weaving is an artist technique that you can teach very young children. And it's really good for them being more nimble with their fingers and being able to, oh, there's a word for that, the dexterity in their fingers because of weaving. And you can buy little kids' kits at the stores. I think Walmart even sells them. And they're just weaving kits. And it's very simple and very easy. But I've woven things that are like pot holders, end table covers, dishcloths, just all kinds of things that really make interesting items. Now you may think I did a mistake here, but this was because it turned back around. That's why it's double. But see, if you look on all the other ones, it's still okay. Now I need to tuck it under this one. So I'm pulling that out. Oh, let me pull it back. See what I did? I didn't grab all of them. So let me pull that back. Actually, I think I'm going to go one more time. I think it's close enough that I'm going to go one more time. No. See, you can change your mind in the middle of things. It's just so close, but I think I can push it down one more time. Yeah, I think I can. For a second, I didn't think I could, but I think I can. Now see it, sometimes it's very straight. Most of that is underneath, but I think when I come back around, it will be differently. And if you're losing your colors, twist your yarn a little bit. I mean, you still want it snug, but twist it so that those colors wrap around. Oh yeah, see there, it's twisting again. That's good. Because I want, on those dark ones, I really would like more of the color showing. So we just twist it a little bit till we get what we want. We go back. And then the next time, I think I can go all the way across. And that makes it so what was curved is now straight. Yep, I should be able, when I tuck that, it should be perfect. But I'm really liking all these colors right there. Very fun. I'm going to twist this a little bit more because I want a lot of color coming back and forth. And we're pushing it down. See how we're just really getting that straight across. And I think we have enough to go one across and tie off over on the other side. Yep, perfect. But it's just a matter of weaving with your fingers. And it's just very textural because of using the yarns and the strings. And when you feel it, it invokes a feeling. And I like it when art can do that. And a lot of art you can look at, but you're not meant to touch. But a weaving, I think you're really meant to touch. So I'm going to tie that off. Okay, that's pulling a little bit. So let's loosen that, pull it back a little bit, and then we'll tie it. Okay, so I'm going to look, and I want that pretty straight across. If I need to push up or push down, that's what I'll do. And it's giving some fun texture. Now, a lot of the stuff is over on this side. And so we need some texture over on this side. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the fat yarn. And I am going to just add a little bit, not a lot. I'm going to add some over here. So we're just going to tie it off. There. Now this is on the back side, so we have to start on the front side. Now on the fat yarn, remember I always just do a couple up and down of the yarn and then pull it across, because I just don't want it to get all twisted and bulky, and it just takes me a long time to straighten it out. And all we're going to do is just go back the other way. Now, as you go up, when we get way up to the top part, let's move that up a little bit. When we get way up in here, because of the bar, there's a lot more pressure on there. Yeah, see, that's a fun combination. And I don't want to do it too thick. I'm just going to do it these 2 rows. And make sure nothing's twisting. And not that twisting is wrong. It just depends on the look that you want. Yes, I like it. So we're just going to tie that off. If we decide we want to use more, we can. So we're just tying that off. We don't want it to be too tight on either side. Oh yeah, I like it. Now let's show you how to do halfway across on one color. We'll do a few rows, and then we'll do halfway across on the other, and we're going to connect them together. So let's start with some of our red purples with the little bit of yellowy gold. Let's use some of that. So we're going to take it and we're going to cut it. We're tying off. It's always a matter of tying off. And we always look, were we in the front or were we in the back? And so let me move this around just a little bit differently. That's a little bit. How about right there? So we're going the front, the back, the front, the back, the front, the back. We're pulling. Never pulling too tightly. You don't want it to bunch up crazy unless that's the look you want, that you want it to go in and out. And then you could just do it on certain ones. Okay, I'm going to do 2 rows back and forth, and then we're just going to go halfway. I just want it to kind of blend with the colors below. Okay, we don't want to pull it too tight. We want to press it down as we go. I'm going to pull this a little bit differently so I can just get a little closer with my chair. And we're going to go back and forth and pull again. Okay, now this time we're only going to go halfway. Now we have 12 uprights. It looks like 24, but these 2 together is counted as 1. And so I'm going to go 6 across. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm tucking it down. I'm going to go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I've gone all the way across and all the way back. When I do the next one, I'm actually going to go to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that I can weave it back and forth between the two of them. And they will all just stay together instead of me getting all the way up here and I can spread a hole to separate them. I don't want that. So depending on how thick I want this section, I'll go all the way across, all the way back, all the way across, all the way back. And sometimes it will be 6, and then every other one will be 7. So this one is 6. And then the next one we do will be 7. Okay, so this one is a 7. And see how it's just so easy to do. So we have 2 rows with 7s. And the other 2 short rows are with 6. So let's do another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pull. Tuck down. We're going to go back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. This time it'll be a 7 because one time we go across and it's 6. The other time it's 7. Oh, thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate it. It's really a fun project to do. So let's do one more 7 row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to pull. Now we don't want to pull too tight on the ends, and we never want to pull in the center when we're turning. And then we'll take another color and we'll do the other half. Okay. We're going to tie that off. Okay. Try to make it even because we want these rows to be straight. Now I think I would really use both of these. So we had this color. Let's use this color over here. And it has subtle colors from in here, which I really like. So we're doing this half, so we're going to tie it off on this side. Okay, and we want it to be pretty even with where we're going to start. So let's move it just a little bit up higher. And we're going to start from the back, forward, back, forward, back, pull. Now, I'm going to push that down. And remember, this is a 6 row. So we are doing 7 on this side. And our next one, it will only go to 6. So it's the opposite of what we did on that side. So we're going forward, back, forward, and then pull. Push down. Now this one is not as thick as that one. The 2 yarns are different. So because of that, you can do one of 2 things. You can double it up, or you can just add a few more rows in there, depending on how it just looks. But right now we're okay. I don't think we have to add any bright yet, extra ones. Okay, so this is a 6 row, so we're just going to come around. And when we get to the 7th, we'll pull this back over. So we're just back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. So here we go again. We don't want to pull it too tight. We're pushing it down. And this is a row that we attach with this. Well, it's easy to just push it up for right now, pull it, and then when you can push it back down. And then we're going to go forward, back, forward, back, forward. And we pull it. And it's really starting to take shape. And those will let them pull together. And that's what we want. I don't want any openings. Not that you can't fix an opening. If you just want it straight, straight, afterwards you can pull them together on the back with stitching. But I like it how it interlocks and what that looks like. And so I think that's really just choices, is really what it is. Not right, not wrong, because how can you be wrong with art? When I used to teach a lot of art classes, in fact, I had my own studio and I had classes all the time. I would tell, especially the kids, you can't be wrong with art. It's your perception of what you're doing. Now, you might want to learn more techniques to get better at something, but that doesn't make it right or wrong. It just means that you're learning. It's a process. See how we can just push that and see that interlocking of it? And it just makes it interesting when you have different textures, different weaves, and I think it makes the person that receives it, that hangs it on their wall, to think, it gives them an emotion. And that's when art is really good. Now we're going to go all the way across, which will lock these together even more. So I'm going to lift that up as I pull because the string is getting shorter. I don't want to have it too tight. And just like we had the yarn go all the way across here, we're going to do that up here. And it's just back and forth. And if you ever question, which way am I doing it? Pull it out, come back around, start again. It just takes you seconds because you don't want to get too far and go, oh, I'm doing something wrong. You want to be able to say, okay, this is what I need to do. I didn't need to go in the front. I needed to go in the back. So it's an easy fix. And if you're pushing while you're going, it's very easy to see what one is front and back. Now, if I look, I can get one more across. And so that's what I'm going to do. And they're just beautiful color yarn. If you go into a yarn shop, oh my gosh, the different types and textures and what they're made out of is just incredible. Now, as you can see, this one is not quite long enough to tie over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist it around this one for a little while. And eventually we'll do it in the back and I'll show you what we do with that. But I'm liking it so far. So let's move the camera back so you can see the whole thing. What do you think? I think I need some of this color in there. I need some of the lighter color. So let's just take some of that. That was a sock yarn. And let's do a couple rows of straight across there. I think it'll pull some colors in there, which will be nice. And this is such a thin yarn. I'm for sure doing it double. Well, good morning. Thanks so much for stopping by. And I just really appreciate everybody that they hop in. And, oh gosh, such good friends. I tell you, such good friends on YouTube. Now, this is the first time I've ever done a live that it was a step-by-step. And honestly, I just wasn't sure. You know, I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but there were some other things I wanted to be able to do. And I thought, I'm just going to try it. Now I need to move this up because it's in my way. And so I am going to go like this. Now remember, you can make different stitches. It doesn't have to be over, under, over, under, over, under. What if you wanted to go, so this one we have to go above. What if we went and took 2 of them? That's another reason why it's good to have even numbers on your uprights. And so I'm going every 2 strings. And I'm actually going to have to stand up for this one because it'll give you one more different look. But see how easy that is to do? And we'll come back around. Now it's very important not to pull on this one because it's actually the stitches too. So you have to be very careful on their tension when it comes to when we wrap around. And in fact, you're better off being too loose than too tight on ones like this. And I'm going to move my chair completely out of the way. I'm going to move it up. I'm going to stretch that down a little bit because I want it a little more even. And I'm going to reach around the camera. And when I'm doing 2 at a time, I really like to just do those. And that way I can turn any of my yarns that may twist. And we come through here. Come back over here. Okay, I'm squishing it down. Now this is a very loose stitch on it. And the fun thing about these loose stitches, say you were going to put in, charms. These are fun stitches to use because you can actually make them stretch and let them hang a little bit differently. Now I'm going to go back to my regular in and out. I'm not changing my yarn. I'm just changing the stitch. So I'm just going every other one. So let's pull that and see how that looks. See how it changes? And we'll do a few times across with that too. And it just makes it fun, different. As an artist, a lot of times you just don't want things to be, you like patterns, but you just don't want them to be too much of the same pattern. So we're just weaving in and out. I'm going to pull. Now we have to be careful, remember, because we have that double row, 2 rows, and we don't want to pull it so much that it tightens it over there. Now this is, remember, the one that we tied off, and eventually it will get tucked under, so it will give that look right there. Pulling, untwisting. Hi, Debbie and Robin. How are you? Thank you so much. We're just working away. Feel free to come in and out all you want, because this is seriously like a 3 or 4 hour project. And right now we're in about an hour and 45 minutes. So let's show them the things that we've been doing so far. Different textures, different yarns, and different techniques. It's just been a blast. And so these just make great Christmas presents. You can take a lot of yarn that are Christmas colors and make things. Or you can take colors that are out of somebody's specific room where you think they might hang them. If it's a relative, ask them. I'm doing a wall hanging for you. What colors would you like? And you can incorporate those colors into your gift. And it just really makes it very personal, and it makes it so that you really, they'll really enjoy it. It's a labor of love for you, and it's a great gift for them. Okay, so this is as far as I want to go with this color, because it's really an accent color, but I wanted to be able to pull it from there. And it's a variegated, so it has different colors in there, and I'm just pushing that down, and I'm going to tie it off. Now, can you incorporate all of a sudden a brand new color? You can, especially if it's just small bits. Because like if we took, because we have the cream colored and we have the greens, and it actually has some blues down in here, I'm going to take just the embroidery thread, and I am going to do some stitches with the embroidery thread. But I'm not just going to use blue, I'm going to also use the cream and the green, so that it incorporates all of them together. Now remember, these are just so thin. They're just thin as can be. I'm going to wrap that around there for a second while I cut it. And so it will be very thin when you put it on. I'm going to start on this side, tying it off. The camera's really close, so I'm going to tie it up higher and then slide it down. Okay. Now we have it tied off. We stretch it because we want it to be smooth. We don't really care what color comes up first. We're going to start at the back, forward, back, forward. And it's just the front, the back, the front, the back. And we want to get all the way across with this. But I would really encourage you, if you have kids or grandkids and you want to teach them a skill, because I really think weaving is a skill. Some people just think it's an art form, but I really think it's a skill that you can use in just so many things. Because if you can weave plant material and baskets and just a lot of different things. And it is something that even the smallest child can learn how to do. A simple weaving project. Maybe they have just 4 uprights, up and downs. And you teach them just to go back and forth and back and forth. Yeah, see, I think that when we're adding the subtle colors with that, I think it will draw your eye down here farther because of the color matching. And because this is so thin, I think I'm going to do one more for sure. I might do even a couple more. We'll look at it from a distance and see what we think. Now remember, when we come around the back side, or either side, we don't want to pull it too tight that it pulls this inward. Now when we get all the way over here, let's do another stitch. Okay? Okay, so we have done double stitches, single stitches. Now remember, all your uprights are actually 2. So let's just do 1 through the middle of them. It'll give it a little bit of separation. So I'm just pulling the very first one forward, and I'm going to link it through all of them first. Especially if you do this with really thick yarn, it can give you a really different look. And so we'll try that on when we're done with these threads. Okay, so we're pulling it. We're going to tuck that down. And it gives it a little more three-dimensional effect every so often. And with the thicker yarn, you'll be able to even see more. And let's go back to over under again. And then let's use a thicker thread, a thicker yarn. Well, Robin, goodbye. I'm sorry you're having trouble with your internet. But, girl, I know exactly what you're talking about because I had trouble this morning. Now, you have to remember that embroidery thread does not stretch. So make sure you are not making it too tight. It is not like yarn, and it is not going to stretch for you. Okay, and let's just tuck that all down. I am just going to set that and tie that off for right now. There's a lot left on there, but I think, see, I'm just never sure if I'm going to use those again. And so I just like to just keep them to the sides, because you just never know what your brain will go, oh, we should add a little bit right there. Now let's take some more yarn that's thick. I don't want to try it with, I don't want to show you with a great big thick. Well, why not? Why not? I'll show it with you. We'll do it with the thick one. Okay, so we're going to grab some, cut it off, and we're going to tie it off. So let's tie it off over here. Okay, so the first one that we do, we are going to go just over under. And so we have to go forward first. A little bit of yarn coming off there. Now remember, this thick yarn, you want to every single time pull it all the way through. Just because it is just so bulky. Let's turn that around a little bit. There. And if you have any twists, you can fix it. So every time you get to the front, you're going to pull it all the way through. See how it just pulls so easily. But it's a great way not to get it twisted if that's not the look you want. Now, if you want to twist your yarn, then you got to twist the whole row probably, or it'll look like you just made a mistake. But this yarn is one of my favorites. I mean, some of them are different colors, but they're this thick stuff for weaving, just because it adds so much to a wall hanging. Okay, so if I wanted to go just through the center, I would pull the front one and I'd go through it. Okay, make sure you're not pulling tight on those ends. And we're just going to take the front of every one. So I can take 2 at a time. Two at a time. And it just makes it, it's going to pull, and you're going to see a lot more of our uprights when it's such a thick yarn. And because our uprights are matching our rest of our wall hanging, that works really well. Now, if you're using upright yarns that do not match, I probably would never go through the center. because you are going to show colors that you may not want, or may just detract from your wall hanging. But see how it really shows a lot of the fun parts of your uprights. And that's a cool thing to do. So we're going to go behind, not pulling too tightly. Buzzes. And we're going to go back to the every other. So we're in front, we're in back, but we're taking both of the lines. And then when we get all the way through, I want to just show you the contrast of that. It's just so lovely. Okay, and I'm twisting a little bit, so I have to fix that. Pushing down. Okay, I'm twisted, and that with bulky yarn, it just happens. It just does. You just have to be careful, and you just have to undo it. But isn't that nice how it's showing long, 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 and it just gives it a really cool look. And I'm going to untwist that. Now, it's the purples that are ending, and I don't really want purples to be the ending colors. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go through the center again. And remember, we always want to take the first string of our upright. Let's turn that down. Got to pull those, because I would rather end with some of the bolder colors than the duller colors. Not that I don't like the purples in there, because I do, because it's really good contrast with these blues and purples. And let's go one more time. Now, we do have to look. This was behind, so this has to be the front. And I think it will, when we can pull some of those greens and blues, I think it will end up at a better look. And sometimes that just depends on, how wide your wall hanging is. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, and you have to really think about how you're going to end. But as you see, we're going just through one at a time because it's so bulky, and we want to make sure that it's staying pretty straight, not twisting really. Now, if you guys decide you're going to do a wall hanging yourself, you know my email is always in the description box, and I'd really love you to send me some pictures. I'd really love to see what you come up with. Oh yeah, that is interesting. I really like the lines that it did. Very interesting. So of course we're going to tie it off over here. Could I trim it? Yes, I could, but I'll trim it later if I need to. Okay, so let's look at it from a distance. Let's see all that we got done. So we started, this is actually where I'm going to have fringe coming down when we tie them off. We've got the colors here that match the colors here. We have the thick yarn in 3 spots. I like that. We have the curvature, and then we have this plus this color, so that makes kind of a 3 also. And so if I was going to do another third of these, I would use these colors again. Now it just depends on how far I want to go up into the wall hanging. But I think I will add some of these colors. Just because I can add it up to about here, and I think it'll give it an interesting look. But this time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this color and the matching one that we've used across from it in the same. So it's going to be kind of bulky. Oh, sorry. I bumped that when I moved that yarn. So let's grab some yarn. We'll make both the same length, of course. So that way we still are keeping our rule of 3, but they're going to mix together. So part of it will highlight the darker and part of it will highlight the lighter, depending on how it twists. Okay, so we have it tied off. We have to start from behind. Oh, the garbage man is outside my house. I can hear him. And we're going to just weave it back and forth. And depending on which way we're going, I think the lighter will be more prominent on one side, the darker will be more prominent on the other side, on the direction that we're going. And you can always twist it on purpose if you want both of the colors mixed all the way through that line. Okay. So let's see how we have to even it out a little bit. Are we straight or are we up and down a little bit? I think we're pretty good. So let's weave across the other way. So I'm always pulling it tight to make sure that there's no loose amounts of the thread. And then we're just going to weave. Pulling, every other one, so that we can just weave in and out. And the closer you get to the top, the less room you have. And so it's just a process. So we're pulling and we're going to tuck down. Well, yeah, see, I like that mixture of the two. Now, when I do these on frames, because I weave sometimes and I don't even have a frame, I'll just hook the strings, these strings that come across, let's pull you up a little bit, onto nails or hooks or whatever, especially if I'm doing it outside. And if it's a big project, I will just let them be much more free-flowing. Oh, I'm really liking that. And it really depends on when you're weaving, what you like to do. Do you want it to have a frame with nails? If it makes it easier for you, that's what you should do. If it's easier for the kids to do it that way, you can buy one of those little kits. But the higher you get on something like this, because of the board up here, it's wide, it gets tighter and tighter. So then it's easier just to pull the upright towards you. Sorry, telephone ringing. I turned it off, but I guess it still rings when it's turned off or turned to silent mode. Oh yeah, see, this I'm liking. And you have to decide how wide you want that, because I still want to do, see down here. Let's go down here. Our very beginning, I like to, a lot of times, whatever I have down here, I like to do up there, even if I only do a row or two. I find it looks very finished that way. Do you have to? No. Do I always do it? No. But I find it interesting and sometimes almost comforting that it starts, it stops, it's similar. So I will do a couple of those rows, and that's a double thickness of yarn. And then what we can do is we can start tying off all these side things. That's usually the next step that I do. Then if I'm adding beads, I don't cut off these top strings yet or take them off and weave them through a board or a stick, which I am going to use a stick actually. In fact, I found this one outside that this is going to be my top piece. So let's put that up there. And these top rows, I'm just going to take this bar off and I'm going to slide that through. But I thought it was real interesting because it has the cracking in there and it almost looks like driftwood. It's just been sitting outside for so long. And I thought that would be an interesting top. So we're evening it out. I think I can go 2 more times before we add the bottom colors. And so really that makes it at probably would be about 2 hours and 15 minutes by the time we get to that point, which is about an average for this size. So we are pretty much on schedule for that, because then we start to do the tie-offs and we do any beadwork that we might want. Now sometimes I'll get finished and I have thought I was going to put beadwork on, and then I go, no, I think it will just detract from it. And so I just don't. Because every piece is individual, and I think you just have to really just think about it on, okay, what do I really want? What is this piece really saying? Or what feeling do I want to give out of it? And sometimes you do things that weaving that, oh, it looks like sunsets, or it looks like water, or I'll make one when it gets closer to Christmas that has a Christmas tree inside of it. Oh yeah, see, I like that a lot. Okay, and I'm going to tie that off. Now I have Joe's clamps on the back here, so I have to reach between the board and the clamp to get them to tie off. And I don't want to pull it too tight. And I just do a little knot. It's really simple. Okay, now because I want to match the bottom, or do I? It's just such a perplexing thing to decide sometimes. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take some of the yarn, and this skein right here has too much purple right here. I need some more green and blue, so I'm going to untwist it a little bit till I get to where the color changes are. Okay, so we got to where the blue is. So I'm going to trim that because purple is not the color I want to end in, because we have a lot of that right here. And so what I'll do is I'll just take some and I'll just kind of look at it. Does that give me the feeling that I want? You know, do I want it to be more green? Do I need to unwind the yarn a little bit more? And do I want it to turn more to the green? Because if I go to the green, then it goes to the gold. And that's one of the colors that Steph said that she would like in her wall hanging. So I am going to I'm going to cut it to the gold. And if some of the other colors come out also, I'm okay with it. But that way, I think it will pull these colors. See these uprights? It will pull these colors that we have way down here, down in here, and down in here, so that it becomes one full piece. And so I'm always going to take the two ends. I want to even those out, and I want to fold it in half, because this is a technique I use for the bottom and for the top. So I'm going to send one of those through, and I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to pull that so that it's completely even. And I want that little string to be over here. Okay? And this starts on the top because this other one was on the back. And I think using this gold color will really accent all these colors along here. And it just is a matter of weaving. And I'll probably do, well, down below, I think I did maybe 6. Now see what's happening is my string is too long over there and it grabbed it. So we don't want that. Then I tuck that so it goes perfectly flat. Yeah, because don't you think that these colors are really going to match on these? And I think that is a good thing. I think if I did it too dark on the top, it's one thing doing it dark on the bottom, but I think too dark on the top would not meet what I want it to turn out like. Remember that if there was one thing I want you to remember is never do these too tight on the ends because it puckers it. And so unless you are definitely wanting it to go in and out in different spots, it's just not something you want to do. We're just weaving it again to the front, to the back, to the front, to the back. If I wasn't on video, I would be singing. But you don't want to listen to me sing. But I do like singing when I'm weaving. And it doesn't really matter because Joe doesn't care what I sound like when I'm singing. But all of my kids sing. When the kids were little and we'd be in the grocery store, they would start singing about the food. They still sing. I will catch them, they'll be visiting or we're visiting them and they're doing something and they're singing. I remember this one time we're in the grocery store and we're in the meat section and Steven starts bellowing, singing, loud singing. I want my steak tonight. And he's just dancing around and singing that he wants his steak. And oh my gosh, I laughed so hard. It was just the funniest thing ever. And they just never lost that. They still sing. Especially Angie, my oldest. She will be singing all the time. She's in the car, she's singing. She's out gardening, she's doing whatever activity, she's singing. It is just so awesome. And I'm not really sure why they love to sing so much. It must be because we were always singing around the house. And it is a total joy to listen to them sing as adults. Now that I like. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. And lift this out just a little bit so I can tuck both of those strings through there. Now I'm looking. Am I too tight any place? I don't think so. So now it's a time of tucking all of our end pieces in. And to do that, I'm going to switch the panel around to the back side. And the back side of the panel is always interesting. And because it has its own weave and it has its own stuff. Now, one of the things I have to do. Some places it was a little too tight for me to wrap around both ones because of just where the clamps were. And so those ones I will untie. It's mostly just the fat ones that I couldn't get through. So I'm just untying those ones. That's okay. There's another fat one. Pull the camera back a little bit while I do that. See, these fat ones were too thick to go in between this wood and the clamp. So I just put them over to the side. Not all of them were, but some of them were. And so I'm just going to untie them. If the knots get too tight, I just cut them with the scissors because I'm going to trim them anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, those ones I think I'm going to cut that one, that green one. So I can take that off. And I'll cut that one too. Okay, now we can flip it around. So this is what it looks like on the back side. It's interesting. It's not bad. I mean, it's not the same as the front, but it's very interesting. So we're going to clamp those back because we want ours to stay where they're supposed to. Let me go around and I'm going to clamp the other one. There. Oh, let me get it all. There. And the idea is that we have to be able to tuck every one of these strings into the back side. And so I like to use a needle. And I'm going to move this up because we're going to start on the top and work our way down. Now, if I can undo these knots, I usually do. If I can't, I'm going to cut them. But usually I've tied them soft enough that I can just undo them. But every once in a while they get twisted, they don't want to do it. And I usually trim them some right now, and then when I send them through the weave, I'm going to trim them again. But I see I left my big needle in my craft room, so I'm going to be right back with that. Now I just use, they're called home craft assortment needles. They're different sizes. Some of them are curved, some of them are straight. And I'll just pick one that, see how they have a very large eye in the needle. And that's what you want because yarn is thick. And so you just want to send it through. See it? That one it twisted, so I'm going to trim it. There. Sometimes if I do it at an angle, it comes through there better. We'll just grab some of it. The fuzzier it is, the harder it is to get through that eye of the needle. And so we're just going to send that through. I'm going to have to get a bigger needle even. That one is just too thick. And it doesn't really matter what size needle you have because it's not actually, you're not going to see anything from the front side of it. There it goes through. And what I do is I just grab some of these back threads and just send it through. And then when I get them all done or a bunch of them done, then I'll trim those. And it's just one after another. And I just work my way. Sometimes I'll do one side or I'll do half of the side. But I try to make it going through all of the same area if I can. See how that's through there? And then you can just, that's the only ones right here. And so we want to trim it. Now, because of the edges, you want to make sure it's not too tight. So if you pull it, it'll pull that thread back up a little bit. And that can fix that. Now, on this side, it's very long. It was a long leftover. And so I'm just going to first pull that to the back and then just trim it off. Because this is a long piece of yarn and I might be able to use it for something else. And it's kind of a tedious process if you're using a lot of different yarns. But, I mean, it's not bad. It's not hard to do. And you just are doing it. Now, sometimes it ends up that is too short. So if that happens, all I do is put the needle in first before I thread it. See? And we just pull that through. And then I can loosen it back up so that it's not tugging. Okay? So say this was too short, which it's not, but if it was, I would send my needle through first, then I would send the yarn through. And the fun thing about yarn, even if it just gets part of it, when it sends it through, it will take it. Okay? And then I can stretch that the way I want it to and come back and trim. So on the front side, you don't see it. It just looks like it's twisted on the back and it's part of the weave, and it's all good. Now this one is our next one. 2 different colors. I just cut it, so I have to cut that knot off. And it's just a matter of putting them through some of the yarn. And we just send it. The bulkier the yarn, the harder it is to get in the needle. But as long as you can catch some of it, because there's not really any tension when you're pulling it through, you can grab it. Now, because these are very close together on this one, I'm going to send it through the same spot. When we get to these next 2 bulky ones, those are a little more difficult, just because of the bulkiness of it. And sometimes I can get it a good enough part into that needle, and it'll just pull it through. Other times it's a little bit of a battle with it. But see, this is kind of a short one and the needle's long, so I'm going to take that over there, pull the fuzzes away, and send it through. See, and as long as you can grab part of it, it will take it through. Famous last words. It didn't take it all the way through. It untwisted it. So let me trim that a little bit because I pulled too hard on the wrong string. Now, have I started a row in the middle from the back side? I have. And as long as you can secure it in the back, it's all good. Okay, and we're trimming that. Now we're going to go to the bulky ones. So we're going to untie those. There's a lot of extra on this one. But I am going to leave it fairly long in case I have to trim a couple times. Okay, so I'm going to pull that to the back. And I'm going to leave probably about 6 inches. Keep that other extra part because I might be able to use it on something. And I'm going to squeeze my fingers around there and see if I can grab something, a little part of it. Now, one of the things about this bulky, if I can't get it, I'm going to weave it sideways. Because see how I have my long threads there? I can weave that through there and get it through because it's just too bulky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull on it and I'm going to weave it through. I'm going to pull on my next long one and I'm going to weave it through. And I'm going, you know, I'm doing it sideways, which is totally okay. It just has to secure onto the back. So I'm going through 3 of them, and that should be plenty. Then I can trim it. And I'm going to do the same with the bulky one on the other side. Because the needle is large, but this is just so big. Another thing I can use is a crochet hook. And I've used that before to get them through. Okay, so I'm going to cut this at about 6 inches again. I'm going to take it over here and I'm going to pull on the string. This is one of the uprights. Pull it over. Take another one. Pull it over. I want to do it at least 3 when I'm doing it on crosswise. Because 1, it's a bulky yarn. 2, it will just secure it more. And then I'll trim that off. Okay, so let's move the camera down a little bit. Now we've come to the strings that are just embroidery thread. So let's undo that one. And this is long on this side, so I can easily trim that. Now embroidery thread, I might be able to get all 3 of them into the eye of the needle. we'll see how it goes. And that just saves me some time. And the other thing I like about this needle is it has this little crook in it, and it makes it so that you can really dig into the yarn. So we're going to take those 3. Let's see if we can get them right through there. Yep. And that way, it just saves me some time. I'm going to grab. We'll go down that far. We always want to pull it out to make sure that we're not trying to crimp it, because sometimes you don't see that crimp until after you're all the way done. Okay, so let's go from this side. And remember, if you can't get the knot to come out right away, don't waste all that time, because a lot of times they're just short and you're going to throw them away anyway. And just clip them off. Now, this is a fairly short, so it's easy for me to just go down. And we already know that all 3 will slide through there. And so we got them through there, and we're just going to pull. And there we go. Make sure it hasn't become too tight. And then we can trim that off. Now, a lot of these little short pieces, most people will throw away. I actually just put them in a tub, because there's some craft projects that sometimes I use little teeny short pieces of yarn and string. And like when I'm sewing, I save all of my threads because I use them in projects. Oh, thanks, Janie. That's a good idea. She says if you Google how to put beads in your hair, you will understand how you can need anything. Oh, but it's probably weave anything. I do a lot of beading, and it helps me out tremendously. That's awesome. Hi, Judy. How are you? And I see Doug is still here, or it might be Shelly, because they're His Way Homestead. Oh, you would love those guys. You should check them out. And they are so knowledgeable on so many things, especially rabbits. If you are homesteading, or you would like your kids to do something in the fair, oh, go-to guy, I tell you. I got to trim that one more time. And we are just going to thread that. I was hoping I could get both of them through in one, but I don't think I can. It's just a little bit too bulky. So we'll do one. Yep, easy enough with one. And I'm going to try to get through that same line that we used before. Not that you have to, I just think that it looks a little more cleaned up if you do that. And Janie is right, you actually can add the beads while you're weaving, but since this is a beginner's tutorial, I did not want to do that way. But it's easy to do, and it is like weaving beads into your hair. So a lot of you moms and grandmas out there that do that for your grandkids, that is the thing to do. Same principles. And this is kind of thick also, so we have to do it just one at a time. Sometimes that twisting action on the end will help it go through. I'm going to try to get those through that same area. Yep. And it really doesn't take that long to, even if you have a lot of different yarns, to do it. So we're going to pull that, but we don't want it too tight, and then we'll trim. We just keep going, one at a time. Let's move the camera down a little bit. I'm going to move it a little bit to this side. That might help you guys see. His Way Homestead says, "You're too kind." They're just the sweetest people ever. I tell you, I love them. I seriously do. I love them. If I lived closer to them, I'd come and visit them all the time. Yep. I can't even tell you how much I have enjoyed being on YouTube. I mean, it has its frustrating parts and the parts that just take a lot of time and things like that. But I would have never met so many people from so many different places. I mean, you meet people from all over the world, and I just find it fabulous. And, you know, there's people that think like you think and have the values that you have. And it's just fabulous. Seriously, it has been such a blessing to me to know His Way Homestead, Doug and Shelley over there. And there's a lot of them that have just been just a blessing to Joe and I. And I just really appreciate it. So we're going to go to this one over here. And I just love these multicolored yarns. You know, that when they make them, the machines twist them, and it's just amazing. And it's amazing that you can get yarn at such a reasonable price. Though I honestly have to say that sometimes I have bought yarn that was very expensive. But it has just been wonderful. Oh, see that twisted up. So though it takes you a little bit more time, you need to just pull it back out and trim it off and send it through again. Because if you leave part of it out, it can unravel at some point. Now, some yarn, if it's in the direct sun, will change a little bit of color over time. And so I usually tell people to, when you hang it, don't hang it in direct sunlight. Just because it can just cause, the UV rays cause some problems. And I think you are better off just not having that happen. And, you know, the person that you're giving it to wants it to stay a long time. That they want that gift to be, you know, them have it for years and years and years. And that's your goal too, that they would just really just enjoy that gift. And so having them place it someplace where the sun is not directly shining on it, I think is an easy thing to do. And I think most people are willing to do that. And I think it's just the thing to do. Sorry, put my scissors over on the other side. Now we have another thick one. Now I don't have any up and downs like I did over here. So I'm going to cut it at about 6 inches. And it's just really too big to get through my my needle. So I'm going to pull some of that bulky yarn and I'm going to try to just weave it with my fingers. If I can't, I'm going to go get my crochet hook. Yeah, it just doesn't want to pull too much. I'm going to use my crochet hook for that. So I am going to be right back. I think I left that on the ironing board, so I will be back in a moment. Now this is a big crochet hook. This is not a crochet hook you would need on the yarn that's very thin. But I am going to see if I can just hook one of these back ones. There it goes. That way I can grab it and hopefully I can just pull that through. I usually grab and twist a little bit and pull it through. And I am only going to do it through that one because I don't want it to distort with using such big yarn. Oh, I might be able to do it for two. It didn't change anything on that one. So let me grab another one. And I'm going to grab the yarn and I'm going to twist it so it kind of holds it while I try to pull that through. Excellent. Good. We're just going to gently pull that through. and then we can trim it. Awesome. That just makes me happy as can be that worked out good like that. And then we're back over on this side. And we can go back to our knitting needle, or our sewing needle, craft needle, and put that through there. It's grabbing some, and then we're going to go just send it through. Okay. And what else do we have? We have a real thick one. Two real thick ones. This is a long one. I just like cutting these about 6 inches. It's just worked well for me. And it just makes it so that if I have to trim it again, I have enough room, because it's not like the little sewing needle that I can just grab onto. I'm going to pull this one. Now you have to be careful because you do not want it showing on the other side. So you can't grab any of the uprights and you can't grab any of the front. And sometimes when you're coming from the back side, that's hard to tell. So we're going to do that. We're going to turn, yep, take it out, and then we can pull it. Awesome. Let's grab one more. Let's make sure we're doing okay. Yep, we're doing okay. And I'm actually going to grab one of the little strings. I'm going to twist, and there it goes through. Excellent. And that will hold it. And I will try to make this other bulky one come through exactly the same spot, if I can, if there's enough leeway in the yarn, you know, if it will stretch enough. There. And cutting about 6 inches. Let's see if we can get them through both of those at the same time. There. Take it. We're twisting it around. Take it out, and then we should be able to just pull it. Okay, we'll loosen it back up because I pulled it pretty tight there. And we will just trim. So here we go. Let's go down a little bit farther. There. And see, on this side, we only have like 3 left. So we better catch up over on this side. Now this one was a combination of both a yarn and embroidery thread. So let's take those out. And I'm going to see if I can get all 3 of them through the needle. Otherwise, I'll do the 2 embroidery threads and I'll do the yarn separately. But, oh, good. We got it right through. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take that needle. We're going to go down through several rows. And we're just going to pull. Here we go. There. We want to make sure it's not too tight. And I know I keep repeating myself about that, but if you forget that, sometimes you've trimmed it so much, it's hard to fix. Now this one is a very short one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it through the yarn first. And I think I'm going to have to do it separately because these are pretty thick. We'll see what we can get. Joe and I have been watching the Alone series. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that. They put them up in Canada. They're like 5 miles apart. They have to survive for a certain amount of days. Whoever lasts the longest wins, you know, $500,000 or $1 million, depending on the series, on the season. But it's really interesting. And they were making their own gill net. And so it was weaving. And I thought, that is so interesting that a tool that for the most part, a woman uses, I forgot to send it through, men use for making gill nets. You know, a fisherman does that. And it really made me realize that weaving is a tool, a skill that everybody should learn. My husband is really good at knots. I mean, he can make all these different knots. I'll tell you what the name of the knot is. He's just really good at it. And so when we're doing stuff in the yard, I'll say, what kind of knot are you going to make for that? And he studied them. He finds them fascinating. And so I just find it interesting that skills, once you learn a skill, you can use it in so many different ways. Okay, so I'm sending it through, coming out. Come on, there we go. There we go. And then I'm going to trim that. And sometimes when I'm doing it, I trim them all when I get all the way done. But if you have a lot of different yarns, it can become a problem if it's hard to see. So I'm going to move that back a little bit farther. And our next one, let's see, that one's already taken. That one's taken. I think will be this one. And this one has the yarn and a sock yarn. No, I take that back. A yarn and probably an embroidery thread because that's so thin. Hopefully I can get both of those through there. I tell you, when you get older, you know, I have cheaters. That's why I have so many different glasses, because they're cheaters, and a lot of them I buy at the dollar store, or my mom will find them and she'll buy them for me. And so I have a whole bunch of different kinds. And so people are going, you have a lot of different kinds of glasses, but they're all cheaters. And I didn't have to start wearing cheaters until, gosh, I was probably 55 or so. I was so mad because my eyes had been so good for so long. And then all of a sudden, if it's little, or sometimes even threading a needle, I need my glasses. Oh, I was livid. And I thought, gosh, that's the silliest thing to be mad at. But I was. It made me mad all the time. And the eye doctor said, you should be happy. Your eyes lasted this long. And I said, well, I am happy that they lasted that long, but I wanted them to last like that forever. But I seriously used to be able to see. We'd be going on vacation, and I could see what a sign said hundreds of yards away. And I really shouldn't complain because he says that they're still 2015, which he says is really good. But I don't know. When you're doing a lot of craft work, it's difficult. So we're almost done on this side. And Joe is coming home from golfing. I can hear him coming in the door. And so I am happy that we are almost done. Now I'm done at the bottom, so I'm actually going to go upward when I tuck it in. And I'll trim it off there. Because if it gets too low, there's just not enough of the threads to really hold on to. And so you just go the opposite direction, or you go sideways. If that's what you need to do, go sideways. But it usually works that you can just send it straight up and it'll work fine. And we are just zooming along here. So we have one last big one before we have the last two that are, oh, I guess we have 3 on that side. 6 inches we're cutting. We're taking our crochet hook, and I'm actually going to try to go this way. I'm going to pull that out some, take it. So we're going to go the opposite direction. And then I'm going to twist that and send that through. Just because I don't want that bulk down in this part, I'd rather keep it in this top part. So let's grab this one. So we have it through at least 2. And we're going to grab that, twist, and send it up through. So all that bulk is staying over there in that one section, because bulky yarn is going to make your stuff bulge out anyway. And so we might as well have all that bulk on that side. So let's get this little one, and then we're down to our very beginning ones. I'm just going to clip that. I dropped my needle. I'm getting lots of little pieces of yarn on the floor. And hopefully Joe had a great time at golfing. Joe, did you have a great time at golfing?
Yeah.
Joe says he had a great time at golfing. Oh, His Way Homestead said that they made an ankle loom for his son to weave. Awesome. They made sashes and garter ties. So fun. See, kids of all ages can learn how to weave. I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can learn how to weave. So let's send that up through there. And we'll trim that off. See, the only two we have left on these sides are the ones that were really our starters, you know. This was my starter for my base row, like we did up on the very top. And this was my very first color on the weave that we did. So let's tuck that one in. And then we'll do those two other ones, because those were tied together and they were our very first one that we used. And His Way Homestead said they really love to learn how to build a large loom. Now, he has a great woodworking shop, and he shows that sometimes in his videos. And so he could make a great big loom. And, you know, when you're doing rag rugs, you can be weaving them. It depends on how you're doing it, but a lot of that is weaving also, depending on the design that you're using. Okay, we got our last two. Got to take a drink of tea. Talking too much. So we got these last two, and see, you can see this is the very start. See how that moves down? So we want to make sure that we are sending them up through a lot of layers, because these were beginning ones, and so we really want them to be secure. So I'm going to send those up, and I'm going to try to send them up probably through 10 rows or so, because that was my very beginning. And I really want it to be secure. Now, when we tie these off, it will help that too. And I just really don't want them to have a movement to them. We'll just go up that same channel. We'll send it up, and then we can trim those. So all of our ties are done. And let's switch it around so that we can see the front. So we'll take these clips off. And here we are. Lovely. Just lovely. You know, I'm using a little camera that I attached to my computer. And it just doesn't give the colors of my cell phone, but for some reason my cell phone just did not want to upload. And so that's just the way it is sometimes. So I look at that and I try to get that all straight. My top is straight. And at this point, you could say you're finished. Or you can add beads to it. Now, if you add beads, you're just using a thin needle and thread. You can use, I have some thread that's clear. It looks like fishing line. And that is something you can use. But what I always like to do is I like to stand back. And I have to look at it and see, do I want beads? Do I need beads? Or is this really what I like? So let's go back and move the camera up and just see what we think. And honestly, I think I don't want beads on it. I think I'll send a picture to Steph and see what she thinks, because this is a gift to her. But I think it might detract from some of this and some of this. And for any of you guys that are watching, tell me what you think. Do you think that I should add some beads? Or, because I was just going to add some little glass beads. But I'm really just loving these little parts right in here. And down here where it shows it also. I just really like it. And I think maybe that might detract from it. So I say no. I say I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to finish it off. So let me arrange the camera and also my chair, because I'll need to sit down in this part. So I'm going to move this around. Oh, that was so good. I almost dropped my phone. Because Way Homestead says, I don't think it needs any beads. See, that's my thinking too. I am looking at it and I'm going, no, I like it just that way. I think that might just detract from it. So what do? How do I get this to tie these off, to secure them? So let's look down at the bottom. Okay, now this bar will slip off, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this up a little bit. I'm going to loosen these because this will slide off. If you were doing it on a homemade loom, or say you were using a canvas, you can simply cut these. And maybe I should show you it that way, because not everybody's going to have clamps. So I think maybe I should show you that way. Okay, so what I would do is I take the very first one, and because there's a knot down here, I cut that, and I cut it on the other side. And you can tie it just together. You can go like this and just tie a knot. But what I usually do is, because I always use even numbers of the up and downs, I will take the front one and tie a knot. So it's the two front ones tying a knot, and then I'll take the two back ones and tie a knot. Now, could you do it just all together? Of course you could. But I kind of like what it looks like this. And it makes it so that it's secure. Now, if you wanted to take, let's do a knot the other way. Okay, so we're going to take the next one, cutting it off. And you can just simply take both of these and tie a knot. You tie it once and you tie it twice, because the first one can take away. So then I like to look at it and see which one I like better. Now, I think with the two mixture of colors, I think I like this one better. So I'm going to undo this one. And I'm going to tie it the same, and I'll do it all the way across. And it just really depends. Like if it was all solid colors, I wouldn't have changed. I would have went with the first one. So I separate them two again, and I tie it once, tight, and then tie it again. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing this fringe, after I get all the way across, I'll come back and I'll add more yarn down in here, which we can do. Okay, so we're going to take two more again. And because we did even numbers, it just works so well. Now, sometimes I'll take the yarn and I'll string it all apart, because yarn is made out of lots of threads. And then I don't have to do that individual, because all you have to do is start to take it apart. And usually there's 2 to 3. It's a 2-ply, it's a 3-ply, sometimes it's a 5-ply, but a lot of them are 2s. The thicker the yarn, the more they have. And so you can just see how we're just pulling them apart. And it makes the fringe spread out more, and it makes it more interesting. And the color differences make it so that you can really pull out all these colors in here. See, where this is just got the 2, where this or the 4, this we divided, and so now all of a sudden it has 8. And I like that, so we'll do that with all of those. And we're going to take 2 more so we can tie. And that's the benefit of leaving it on the loom. It's still taut, and it's very easy, and you don't have to worry about things moving from one side to the other side, and it just stays where you want it to stay. And we're just going to tie them again. But see the lovely color changes? And it was all from one skein of yarn. And I just find it fascinating, the colors that they come up with. I was at a garage sale one time, and it was the kids doing the garage sale. Their mother had passed away. She was very elderly. And she had literally boxes and tubs and tubs and tubs of yarn. She crocheted and she knitted, and she just loved to do that. And that was something that occupied her time in her later years. And I thought, how wonderful that when she was young, someone taught her all those skills, how to crochet, how to knit, how to weave, all those things that it used to be that people taught their children always, because they always wanted children to be industrious. And so even at a young age, there were things that they could do. And sometimes I think that we do a disservice to our kids if we don't teach them some of those things. Even if they forget it later and you have to reteach them when they're an adult. And they go, I don't know how to do this. Even though you had shown them when they were little. It doesn't matter. Show it to them again. It's just a lovely time with your children, even when they're adults. And it's just a bonding experience for, or teach your grandkids how to do it. It's lovely. See, I just really am liking these color variations. And I think it really draws it through the whole piece. Oh, His Way Homestead says I could add beads to the end. I could. I'm thinking that maybe wooden beads would be better than glass beads, just because of the color tones in here. And that would be an interesting idea. But I'll see what Steph, that's who it's going to. She's one of my YouTube subscribers. I'll see what she would like. If she loves it just the way it is, that's how I'll send it to her. And if she wants me to do something else, I will do that too. Because she's been so kind to me. I can't even tell you. I use those dishcloths that she crocheted for me basically every day. Unless they're in the wash, I'm using them. I just love them. They're thick and durable. And it was just such a lovely surprise. And I just really appreciated it. Sorry. Unknown number again. Now, when you get these all untangled, all into the 2-plies, you can trim them so it's all even. I find it a little more organic if they aren't even, but those are really choices that as the artist, you decide. And when you give it to somebody, if it bothers them that they're not even, they'll just trim them themselves. Now that is lovely. I just really like it. Okay, so let's move this up, and we have to do the top. Now the top, of course, you can tie knots onto there or tie it over top of the wood, but most of the time I just slip it through my piece of wood that I found. I've also seen, them do it with a long rock, and that is interesting. And sometimes I will put a stick down at the bottom too. Now on this one, I can just loosen that up and it comes off. Just because that's the kind of little loom thing this is, though it's made for cross stitch. Now, here is my stick. And so I kind of try to decide where I want to position it. Now, do I want this coming up, or do I want it coming or down and then, or have it coming up? Those are just choices. And so I like to put my fingers through here so I can take it off. So I can just slide that right off. And that way I can just slide my stick through. And I think I want it to go up, so I'm going to do it that way. And then I like to go through and straighten them all up. Like this one, I think I might send on that opposite side. And then they can just put, Steph can just put a nail, or she could use some wire, but I just usually just put a nail and hook it on the wall. So here is our finished product. We have the wood on the top, and I couldn't be happier. I am just really loving it. I love this fat yarn that we used and all the different colors. So I hope this inspires you to do a wall hanging. Do some for Christmas. You can see it took us 3 hours and 1 minute to make it. Not bad. And so just thanks, everybody. Thank you for stopping by, coming in and out, or for you guys that stayed the whole time. I so appreciate it. So I'm going to sign off. I'm going to send a picture to Steph so she can see it when she gets off work today. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much again.